All right, now we're going to start factoring trinomials of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. And when we factor trinomials, we're going to use the process bottoms up. Remember that factoring is undoing multiplication, just like we did when we talked about our GCF. And we're actually going to be given trinomials, and we're going to factor it so it's going to look like two binomials multiplied together like we had in 3, 5, and 3, 6. So when you're factoring, even though this section isn't our greatest common factor, you always want to look for your GCF first. That's always something that you're going to do. And again, like I said, we're going to use our bottoms up method. Now, I have a helpful hint at the very bottom of this page that came from your e-textbook, and when I'm going through a couple of these, I'm going to be saying these, the hints that's on this page. And it says that when you are doing with bottoms up, you're always going to multiply your first and your last. This sign here, and this sign here, this sign here, and this sign here. These signs, and I'm going to actually probably do them in a marker so you can see them. This is a plus. This is a plus, this is a minus, this is a minus. The sign that's closest to the last number, like if you were looking at this number up here, you would actually look at this sign, the plus there. That sign tells you whether you're going to be adding or subtracting the factors, okay? So that sign is going to indicate adding or subtracting. So if it's a plus, it's adding. If it's a minus, you're subtracting. Now, I am going to just do an example before I go any further in that particular description, because it's not going to make any sense unless you've seen a couple of examples. So let me go ahead and get the example started, and then we'll come back to that page. So our first example says to factor completely. So when we do the bottoms up method, our first step is to multiply the first times the last. Now, when you multiply the first, whatever number is in front of this x squared is what you're multiplying. So I have a 1 times a 36. So I want to find the factors of 36. And remember, I told you that that sign was going to tell you whether we're adding or subtracting. And since it's a plus sign, we are adding. Okay? So I'm going to add to get, you're always looking for your middle sign, or your middle term. So I want to add to get a positive 13. So this tells me whether I'm adding or subtracting, and then we're going to add or subtract to get that middle number. So let's go through the steps one more time. We haven't even done anything yet. So we multiply the first and the last. So 1 times 36, and we put 36 in here. We want to find the factors of 36 that, because this sign is a plus, that add to give me a positive 13. So if I'm adding to get a positive 13, let's think of the factors of 36. So what is a factor of 36? Well, that could be 1 and 36. That could be 2 and 18. And what you're going to do to add to get 13 is you want to add these two numbers together, and that gives me 37. That's not 13, so I need to keep going. I'm going to add these two numbers together. They're going to give me 20. That doesn't give me 13, so I need to keep going. Two more factors of 36. 3 and 12. And if I add those together, I get 15. That's not right, so I'm going to keep going. And 4 and 9 give me 36. 4 plus 9 is 13. So these are the factors that I want. So I'm going to put a little star beside them. These are our factors. So all I've done is I've found all the factors of 36. And over to the side, I added those factors together to see what they gave me. And whichever two factors add to give me my middle term, those are the correct factors that we're going to use when we factor. Okay? Now I'm using 4 and 9. So since I'm using 4 and 9, I want to figure out what signs they need to be. Now when you're adding, let's think of our sign rules on adding. If I had the same sign, my answer was positive. If I had the same sign, I add and keep the sign. If we had different signs, we subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. Okay, so this is your adding and subtracting sign rules. Now we are adding. So if I'm adding, they have to be the same sign. And they're both going to match the sign of that middle term. So since this is a positive 13, both my 4 and my 9 are going to be positive. Okay? So after I find my factors of 36, the ones that add to give me 13, that middle term, then you have to look and see what signs these numbers are going to have. And since we added, they have to have the same sign, and they're both going to be the sign of that middle term. So they're both going to be positive. Now what we do with our bottoms up step is we divide by that leading term. Our leading term is an x. So I'm going to divide both of them by x. And bottoms up, so bottom to top. So I'm going to write x plus 4 because I wrote the x first and then I wrote the plus 4 second. Where do we get the plus 4? That's the sign of that 4. And then again, bottoms up. So bottom to top, so I have x plus 9. And this is in factored form. Now we're going to continue to do a lot of examples of this, so don't panic. But I'm going to pick up the next one in the next video.